Hey, second hour. Just wanted to make this video to refresh what we went, just in case you missed class today. That way you can kind of see what we did in class. So first of all, make sure that you go in and take your attendance, okay? So remember, take survey, go in there and take your attendance and post it, because I keep reminding you guys this is how I take attendance for each day. So even if you show up for a Zoom meeting, even if you're turning in assignments, I'm checking attendance through this quiz, so you have to do the quiz, all right? That'll show me that you had gotten on for the day. So make sure you take the quiz by the end of today. That way I can check attendance and give you credit for being here, all right? So I wanted to go over that first, so make sure you get that done. So we're just going to go ahead and share with you guys the presentation that we went through today with your classmates. So we went over the Zoom expectations. You can pause this if you wanted to read this. I'm not going to go through all the expectations because we've done that once, but remember that, act like you're in class, basically. That's the thing you need to remember, so that you're respectful, be an active listener, mute your mic unless you're talking, okay? Just the simple things that we've already gone over. And then again, the Zoom expectations, we've gone over that before as far as what your expectations are. If you want to read through this, feel free to stop the video and you can read through this screen. This is a quick little video that shows you some helpful hints on how to split your screen if you're on a Chromebook. So and I'll just quickly show you real quick instead of showing you the video. So if you follow where my mouse is going, you can come up here and you can just, with one finger on the pad, if you double tap, it makes your screen smaller, okay? And then what you can do is you can just pull a tab over like that, and it splits your screen. This is real good if you have a reading and notes to do. That's a really good way to make sure that you can see the reading and the notes at the same time. There is another way. Now, if you want to make your screen full again, and you can see what I just did, I just pulled that tab back over. If you want to make your screen full again, you just click on the square, and it makes it full screen. I think this is even easier to use. On your keyboard, right next to your space bar, you'll see there should be an Alt button, ALT. You hold down the Alt button, and then you hit your left bracket button, which is your key next to the P. If you hit that, it also shrinks it down. It's a real quick, easy way to shrink it down. You can also, if you hit the right one, it'll move it to the right. So the one that's right next to the P is left. The one that's next to the slash mark, just right next to it, moves it right. And then you can do the same thing. You can take one of these things and you can move it over. It splits your screen in half. It's a really good, easy way, because you'll see that later in today's lesson. You'll see that it's going to be real helpful so that you can see the reading and your notes at the same time. And then, of course, you just hit that, and that makes it full. If you still don't understand that, you can go to this video link in this presentation, which is in your Canvas. So you have to go into Canvas, and you will find this right here, the very first page. All right, right there, it's highlighted in red, and you'll get this presentation. All right, so the supporting question for this lesson is, what were the causes and effect of Spanish civilization? So hopefully you will be able to answer that question when you get finished with this lesson, which will include reading and notes. You're a bell ringer, and I'll show you the screen in just a second. That question will be up here again, but you're going to be answering the question, what are 3 ways people in your community or someone you know may have moved? So what are some ways, really reasons why? That's what we're looking for, is why people would have left, not ways, but why people would leave and decide to move, all right? And I'll get back to that screen here in just a minute. So why did Europeans travel? Going back 5 centuries to a time of European civilization of North America, colonists from Europe came to America for many reasons. Some wanted to practice religion more freely, and we're going to learn about those people. Others were looking for economic opportunities to make more money, to become rich, all right? Or some just wanted to start a new life. Others also were seeking glory. They're adventurers, and they just wanted something exciting to do. So those are all reasons why people decide to leave Europe and come to the Americas. The group that we're going to focus on first in their colonization is the Spanish. The Spanish were the ones that first came to America in mass numbers, or what is considered mass numbers, and to really start to colonize. And what they did, which a lot of Europeans did, they just called it New Spain. Here are some guiding questions, and if you can answer these questions as we work through this quick presentation, as well as through your reading, it'll go a long ways to you filling out your notes. So here are your 3 questions. How did the Spanish conquistadors defeat American Indian empires? Why did Spain settle in colonies? And what were the causes and effect of the transatlantic slave trade? These are going to be the 3 questions you'll need to answer when you're summarizing your notes. So for those of you guys that want to watch this video, I'm not going to show it right now just because I'm trying to not show everything. You can watch this video. We're going to see a lot of these videos. This is an AP teacher out of New York, AP Social Studies teacher out of New York named Mr. Betts, who creates these parodies where he takes the music of popular songs and then he changes the lyrics and makes them historical lyrics. They're very, very accurate as far as the history goes. This particular one, if you're a fan of Rage Against the Machine, you'll understand that you really can't really hear Mr. Betts so much, but if you understand about Rage Against the Machine, you don't always hear the lyrics either because the music is very loud. So feel free to watch that video. So what is a conquistador? A conquistador is a Spanish explorer who claims land in the Americas for Spain. Conquistadors were typically military men. They were people that were hired. Some of them were criminals that were brought over that were just trying to get away from their troubles in Europe. They were adventurers, but these guys were some of the first ones that came for Spain and started to claim land in the New World, specifically in the area of present-day Mexico and south into South America, specifically on the western side when we're talking about Spain. So we're going to look at, in class, we actually talked about this a little bit more, but why do you think these people were wearing armor? I'll give you just a moment to think about why you think these people here on the right were wearing armor. All right, so some of your classmates talked about the fact that it was for protection. It was for because it was available. It was technology, and that is all very good answers. So they were wearing it because these were soldiers, and they were there because they were adventurers, and they're trying to claim land, and they don't really know who they're going to face. So, and if you look at the 2 groups of people here, you will see that the Spanish, which are primarily on the right, they have their horses, they have their armor, which tells you they have metal technology. But if you look over here to the right, and these are the Aztecs, you don't see any armor. You're going to find out that they don't have all the technology when it comes to weapons as the Europeans do. They don't have guns, they don't have cannons, they don't have horses. They're using bows and arrows, all made out of wood. They may have metal tips on them, but they're not going to be in full suits of armor. So we're going to talk, we talked about 2 main conquistadors. The first was Hernan Cortez, and Hernan Cortez in 1519 landed in present-day Mexico. And at that time, the Inca civilization, I'm sorry, not the Incas, the Aztec civilization ruled basically all of present-day Mexico down, I believe, almost as far south as the Panama section of Latin America. They were a massive, very powerful civilization. Cortez lands in Mexico, and he has, a few hundred soldiers, some cannons and guns, like 16, 17, 18 horses. And as they're marching inland, Montezuma, who was the king of the emperor of of the Aztecs gets word. Now, there were some things that were going against the Aztecs, one of which was they had a belief that a light-skinned god was going to come from the east. Well, the Spanish would have been lighter skinned than the natives or the Aztecs were. They sailed in on what they considered were like floating homes, floating houses, and they were wearing their armor, which would have made them very shiny. So Montezuma, the emperor of the Aztecs, mistook them and thought that they were gods, because that's what their legend told them, that these gods were going to come. So he sends them gifts of gold, hoping that maybe they would go away. And of course, this is what they're looking for. They're looking for gold. They're looking for riches. They're looking for silver and jewels. So that, of course, drives them closer and closer to the Aztec city, which is in present-day Mexico City. And they arrive. Montezuma greets them with open arms. And then over a series of months, they kind of imprison Montezuma. And eventually what ends up happening is the Aztecs run Cortez out. So you're thinking, well, Mr. Rayleigh, how does this show that they're conquering? Well, there were lots of other native tribes in this region that didn't really like the control that the Aztecs had over them. Well, they sided with Cortez. Cortez leads another invasion of the capital city, and he ends up taking the city, burning the city. And they had a couple things going for them. First of all, they had the helps of the natives. Okay. They also had the fact that they were a little slow, the Aztecs were, on fighting back. The Europeans also had superior weaponry with guns. Obviously, guns and armor are going to protect them a lot better than no armor and the shields, and the spears and bows and arrows that the native Aztecs would have had. And the final big one was disease. Disease wipes out hundreds of thousands of natives in the Americas. And disease is one of the main reasons that the Aztecs fall, because they begin to get sick from the European diseases like smallpox and other things like that they had never been exposed to. So over a fairly short period of time, Cortez is able to almost completely wipe out the Aztecs. So let's move on to about 15 years later. A guy named Francisco Pizarro decides that he's going to follow in the footsteps of Cortez, and he is going to go a little further south, and he is going to go see what is going on in the Inca Empire. And they would have been located in the Peru area on the west side of South America, down through present-day Chile. And he shows up, and the Incas have been fighting a lot amongst themselves. They've been fighting over power, so they were weakened because of that. And Pizarro takes advantage of this, and he ends up capturing their leader. And he tells the Incas, "I'll give you back your leader if you give me a room full of gold and riches." So they honor this. They give him literally a room full of gold and riches. But Pizarro does not hold up his end of the bargain. What he ends up doing is he ends up beheading the emperor. This basically destroys the Inca. They have no one to lead them. They just kind of fall apart. And with a few hundred soldiers, Pizarro is able to overtake the Incas because they are so disorganized. He has superior weapons. He also has that hidden weapon of disease. And he ends up taking control of the Incan Empire and stripping them of all their valuables. Now, the Spanish become very, very rich because of the conquistadors. The conquistadors also begin to move north as well, and they start to move into places in the southern part of what is the present-day United States. So they would have been in the Louisiana part. They would have been in Florida, Texas, Arizona, what is present-day New Mexico. They would have come to all these areas. But what they end up doing is the Spanish start to realize these conquistadors are not real good at governing places, because they started to send governors over there because they weren't able to do the job. These were mostly military men, not necessarily well educated. So they were really good at conquering, really good at eradicating natives, not so good at governing these new colonies. And you guys are going to read a little bit more about that in your reading today. So let's go ahead and finish up real quick. So here's going to be the rest of your assignment. Now, I just gave you the quick overview of the conquistadors in the really early attacks that they made in the first attempts for the Spanish and what they were doing. The Spanish were really looking for a lot of gold and riches, and they did. Spain becomes the richest country in the world because of the exploits that they took on these by these conquistadors. And Spain, by the mid 1500s, is extremely wealthy. What you guys are going to do is you're going to read about New Spain and the different types of colonies that were set up, and then you're going to read about the transatlantic slave trade. And here's what you guys are going to do with those things. So as you guys come through here, I just did a quick presentation on the conquistadors. It's thinking. All right. Remember, if you haven't taken your attendance, take your attendance. Here's where you're going to do that bell ringer real quick. You're going to list 3 reasons why people move. So you just hit the reply button, type in 3 reasons, and then hit submit, and you're finished with that, okay? So pause the video if you need to do that real quick. So here's where you're going to access your reading. So you'll see here, it's the reading for the Spanish colonies. If you just click on this, it'll take you to your reading. And I'll show you guys. For the most part, I kind of covered the early part. So it talks about who the conquistadors were. We kind of talked about that a little bit. We talked about the attack on the Aztecs and Montezuma, and that they were they were very shrewd. They were actually, some people would call them evil. Come down here, we talked about Piarzo. Francisco Piarzo and the Incas. So we've kind of already talked about that. So it would not hurt to skim back through, because I didn't necessarily give you all the details. But here on page 58, that's where you really need to start your reading, because this will help you with your notes, okay? So you come down to page 58 and you start reading about the exploration of the North. You see a little map here. Colonizing New Spain, because that's what they called their colonies. And then the different types of colonies. There are 3 different types of colonies, all right? How they organize these things. This is their social class, of course, because we always have to have social classes. Their treatment of the natives, it was not very good, because their treatment of the natives and what happened to them is what leads to the slave trade, and this is the last part. So why are you going to do this? I'm going to show you here. So you have your reading. Move this. So you're going to have notes that you need to complete. So when you click on this box right here, it pulls you up to a Google sheet. It's not allowing you to pull it up right here because I'm in student mode and I'm not a student. Okay, so I'm going to click out of this. I'll get out of student mode. I'll go into mine so you'll see what it looks like, so you know what these notes look like. So still on the same page, you're going to click on this, and this is where that split screen is going to come into play for you. All right. So you guys can see you're answering the question, what are the cause and effects of the Spanish colonization? You are going to use your literacy skill of summarizing. You're going to write 2 or 3 sentences, preferably 3, because it's unless you're really, really good at summarizing, you're probably going to do 3. You can do more. If it takes a few more, write a couple more, because some of those sections might be a little bit longer. That summarizes the main idea. And remember, I showed you earlier in the presentation, those 3 guiding questions. Those are the questions that you're trying to answer. So we already talked about, and we already gave you what the summary for the conquistadors and early exploration was. It's already here. You don't have to do that one. What you need to do is start on page 58 of the reading and start summarizing the main idea behind colonization and the settlement of New Spain. And here's where, if you hit Alt in left bracket, which is right next to the P, it'll shrink this down for you. And what you can do is you can bring your notes over here to the right, And now you still have your reading here. So that way you can still, and let me move this screen up here. So you could still have access by moving it back and forth. And as you read, then you can go ahead and get your summary done. All right. And then you just do an overall summary of the causes and effects of Spanish exploration, all right, or colonization. So you're just going to read through. You're going to complete that assignment. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. All right. So that's your assignment for today. And again, send me an email if you guys have any questions, and I will see you guys on Wednesday.